Here. Okay, hello and welcome to the Hedonistic Way at Midday show. I am Renee Main and we are in for another delicious conversation. We have the beautiful, the amazing, the talented, the fierce, the crazy, courageous Emma Purcell. I don't know, that just slipped out of my tongue. So let's just go with that for now.
I've been called many things, so that was nice.
There you go. Emma creates or teaches people how to create conscious courses. And what really kind of struck me when I was delving into Emma was you said something that you teach people how to create their painful life experiences in order to, let it be their most powerful teaching. And that really struck a chord with me because for a long time, it's just this innate thing that has probably kept me going, to be honest, when your mess becomes your message. And so I felt really aligned with you, and I'm curious to hear your journey around that. And so how did your past experience become your most powerful teaching?
Great question. So for me, it's been very much a journey, and I started out actually in direct selling when I was quite young.
Yeah.
And never really fit the mold. I was always unemployable, even though I had jobs when I was young.
Yeah.
But just nothing ever seemed to fit. And I always felt like I couldn't understand why people would go to work every day or why they'd be told what to do. Like I couldn't, just never fit for me.
Yeah.
And I actually started out in direct selling. And became a director quite young. I was the youngest director in Australasia within the company. And what I found really fascinating was that I would teach all of these people the same thing, and yet they would all do what I was teaching them.
Yeah.
But they would all get such differing results. And some would be successful, some wouldn't, and would go on and on and on. And I just became fascinated by human behavior and what was actually going on internally and why we were all so different and why things worked for some and not for others, and just all, the whole patterns of that really fascinated me.
Yeah.
So my journey has been really interesting because people probably look at me and think that I've done a million different things.
Yeah.
And sort of chopped and changed and, succeed in one thing and then get bored and move to the next thing and whatever.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is the core theme has always been the same, that I've always wanted to help people find their innate gift, their innate purpose, and to actually get to know themselves in a way so that when they're in these situations, and what I see so much now in the marketplace, especially with what I'm doing, is there's so many people out there saying, here's the cookie cutter way, here's how it's going to work, hustle, grind, do this, do that, don't sleep, don't eat, whatever. And having the realization from my own experience and from doing it myself, but also being the observer, that we're not all built the same. And that we're all meant to do something differently. And, there's so many cliches out there about, be unique and be yourself and all of that. But I came to realize that we all have a differing collective core wound that we're here to heal. And the difference between having skills, so certifications and learning things, they're necessary in a lot of cases. That's one part. But the part that truly makes us magic is understanding ourselves and our own inner genius. And that's what sets us apart. That's what makes us different. That's what allows us to let go of competition and to really step into that abundance mentality that we can have it all if we just be ourselves.
And how It sounds so easy, right? And you're right, we hear it all the time. Why is it so fucking hard for people to do that? Like, I feel like it's probably our biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
Um, how can people really begin to tap into their own magic and, you know, trust that inner wisdom and guidance?
I think we spend a lot of our time looking at the wrong side of the coin.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of human design and gene keys with
Yeah.
the Unpack Genius component of my
Yeah.
programs. And what I love, I've kind of pulled lots of differing pieces out of that. You know, if people want to take the deep dive, they can. It's taken me years to do that.
Yeah.
But I've taken pieces of it which can really allow you to see the path that you're supposed to be on, the lane that you're supposed to be in. And I think if you're beginning on that journey, the most important part is to really allow yourself to go into this inner intuition, to allow yourself to really drop in. And when you're looking for people to help you, or, you know, you're looking for coaches or you're looking for support to sort of learn the next thing and go to the next level, to know the difference between your intuition when it's connecting with somebody that you just don't align with and fear.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's one thing to be afraid to take the leap with the right person.
Yes.
And to be thinking, oh, this feels really uncomfortable, but it's actually really exciting. And okay, I'm going to do this. Like, you've got to have all of those pieces aligned. And I think too many people are getting burnt because they're not trusting themselves.
Yeah.
They're putting people on pedestals.
Yeah.
They're believing that because people have achieved more than them, either monetary wise or materialistically or whatever it may be, because of what society tells us success looks like, that they're not truly trusting their own intuition when it comes to, is this somebody that I would actually want to be friends with? That I actually am fully aligned with their values and who they are.
Yeah.
And I used to do a lot of work around relationships, and this is true also when we're sexually attracted to somebody, but I've started to talk about it when we're attracted to a mentor as well.
Yeah.
Is when we have that really almost frightening attraction to somebody, it's completely fear-based. Because we're actually seeing the opposite mirror of everything that we're not. And we're actually fully out of alignment. So I think the biggest message I want people to really understand is, if you're really petrified and afraid that this person is going to either reject you or tell you that you're doing everything wrong, or not agree with how you've been doing things or what your belief systems are, that they're not a fit. And from my own past experience of working with mentors myself, the ones that I went for like that, I learned some really hard lessons. And the ones that I felt fully, you know, that true love, that true unconditional connection of, I really admire, respect, love this person, love everything they're about, would go for dinner with them, would hang out with them anytime, because they're just really genuine, awesome people. They're the people that I actually had those fractal lines with, that once I started to work with them, magic really started to happen. But it gives you this different level of permission where you're allowing yourself to be guided by somebody that you trust. And there's so much love within that relationship that they can also turn back and say, okay, let me point out a few things that are going to help you move forward, you know? So that would probably be my biggest piece of advice around, knowing the difference when you're starting to really unpack what that is for yourself.
And you pick up on such a really good point, Emma, because I feel like that, you know, so much, you know, often I think in marketing, or even like, you know, the soft copy of, you know, a lot of coaches, is that there's this underlying message of, you have it, if you're feeling fear, that's when, you need to do it. They're the person that's going to push your boundaries. And, and there's, so I really resonate with what you say, is that the scarcity and urgency that we've been primed and conditioned to surrender to go, oh, well, that must be our right path because I really need it. It's really refreshing to hear that, it can be another way, and it can be easeful, and these people are still going to, push you and, get the best out of you. So, I really, that's great advice. And I think that's something that everyone really needs to remember. And it is refreshing to hear that. You spoke earlier about the collective wound. Tell us more about that.
So everybody has a differing collective wound that you're here to help heal.
Yeah.
And again, when we try to compare or follow somebody else, or even the niche conversation, that's a big one. Yeah. Where people within the coaching healing industry, that I work with, it's like, you've got to know your niche, and you do. But if you just pick a niche out of the air and try to build from that, again, if you're out of integrity, and that's what I mean when I say out of alignment, you're out of integrity for what you stand for, right? So without truly knowing what that is, and you do know innately, but it's like this process that you can go through to start to really get to know yourself and what you're about. And the collective core wound that I refer to is very much has a lot to do with your relationships within your life. And this is where we go into, this pain into purpose, or these life experiences into teachings, is having the ability and a strategy to look back over your life and how it's laid out. And I'm not a big fan of all the cliche sayings of, you got to learn the lessons and blah, blah, blah. But there's a way that you can really look into your stories. And I use the hero's journey a lot with things that I teach. The way that you can look into your stories and how they can reveal to you what that core wound actually is. And as I say, there's the difference between your story and that victim consciousness. We're not talking about the victim consciousness of, oh my God, this happened to me, and we're going to create a cult of people who are all out to get each other,
No, that'd be that. No, don't do that.
No, it's about elevating that up so that you can, on one hand, take your experience, because you can't, there's a difference between teaching what you need to know, which a lot of people do, and going into a place where you've actually fully embodied what it is that you're teaching others and guiding them through. And then the skill set is the piece that comes in depending on what that is. Like obviously if somebody's dealt with a lot of trauma, then we're not naive to say, well, go create a course about how to help people heal from that. If they don't have any actual experience from that side of the coin, there are skill sets that are required for that. But, it's bringing the two together. It's bringing all the skill sets of what you're passionate about, how those stories have played out that have led you down that path. But then also taking your passion, and I'm really big as well on don't try to monetize your passion, because then you'll turn that into something that you could possibly resent if that doesn't work out. So I talk a lot about how we kind of take 2 steps sideways from your passion, from your story, so that you're not too in it. And how we take the 2 steps sideways to actually bring this real depth to what you can really teach people, and be in total alignment and integrity around what that is.
I love that. And it's a really different take on, a lot of people. I feel like you're the, you know, you're very much the bridge in between, between taking these past experiences, but also being really practical. And, you know, there's a sense of, you know, sustainability in that, you know. We talk, you know, and you spoke earlier about, you know, no matter, you know, you're chopping and changing, you know, you've had a lot of experience in multiple different fields. And I think that a lot of, you know, a lot of, let's say, conscious entrepreneurs will, you know, have had the exact same experiences. And a lot of, I mean, everyone's got a story and a past, of course, but, you know, a lot of them, they've had some real adversity in their life that's got them on this path. Tell me how someone who has been circling around, you know, I know that you work with people, or the people that are drawn to you are people who feel like they were born to do something significant and have an impact on the world. Tell me about how they can begin to unravel this this journey of doing something that's much more in alignment, rather than that is completely based on their past experiences or their passion or whatever that happens to be for them.
Mm-hmm. I would say that they focus on what they believe their mission is.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, especially when they're sort of in that space where it's like, okay, I want to do something, you know, for myself, I did a lot of one-to-one healing for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And that's what really made me passionate about helping people create courses and start to leverage their time a bit more.
Yeah.
And also to help more people, because they were so capped in the beginning. Yeah. But one of the things that I know that happens is people sort of, there's this, what I call the space between the stories. So they've got the, okay, I'm over here and I'm doing whatever I'm doing right now, and I want to make this big impact. Yeah. So then they come over here and here's the big impact. Yeah. And here's the vision, and here's the vision board, and here's, you know, whatever else they're doing, they're praying for, hoping for this to eventuate. But there's the space between the stories. Mm. And, you know, I recently have done a lot of interviews myself with multiple 6-figure, 7-figure friends that are, you know, talking about their courses and how it's changed things for them. Yeah. But the common theme around it was this space between the stories is the journey. Mm. And if we get too caught on vision as opposed to mission, then we always feel like there's this anchor point when there isn't. Because as we all know, when we've achieved anything, we have a goal, we cast the anchor out, we get to the anchor, and then we often don't celebrate it, and we cast the anchor out again, then we get to the anchor, then we don't celebrate that, and we cast it out, and we just go on and on and on, never really looking back to see where we've come. Yeah. But also not doing what's actually important, because we can also get really stuck in this, when I have more money, I'm going to help more people or give back in a certain way. Or when I have more time, I'm going to do this or do that, right? So there's again, it's that anchor point of when I have, when I do. Yeah. And they also have this space between the stories where they may sabotage themselves and say, this is hard, this is stressful. Do I really want to do this? Am I going to go back and get a job? Am I going to, you know, where am I going? And so there's all this kind of going back and forth. When we have a really clear mission that has nothing to do with material gain, monetary gain, anything of that sort, but we can truly anchor into what is the actual purpose of what you're doing. Yeah. And when you can anchor into a mission, you know, mine has always been around helping people reach their greatest potential so that they can powerfully lead by example. Yeah. So again, when it comes to integrity, You can bring that back into your own world when you can just make it simple. A couple of sentences of what am I actually doing this for?
Yeah.
And what is that change
Yeah.
that I really want to make? But it's understanding that we can have this journey and we can achieve all these wonderful things. That's great. Like that's our life, right? And that's what makes it fun. But when you can get clear on what your mission actually is, you can be doing that in every waking moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm believing that I'm helping people find their greatest potential and powerfully leading by example, if I'm doing that when I homeschool my kids, if I'm doing that when I'm at the skate park talking to their friends, if I'm doing that every time I meet a new person, if I'm doing that every time I speak to a new client, if I'm doing that every time I set a new goal for where I want my business to go, I'm always celebrating, because no matter when this journey ends, I've always been solid in my mission. And I'm already making an impact. And I think that's the thing, is people say, I want to make an impact, but the reality is you're already making an impact.
Yes, that's very true. Very, and that could look that could like be on either side of the coin, right?
Yeah, you're making an impact, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I really, really love that. And that's so true. And that can work for us or against us. And that could potentially be a really friggin' confronting answer too. How can people begin, you say get it in 1 to 2 sentences. How can people really begin to tap into what is my mission?
I think it's asking questions like, who do you want to help?
Yeah.
What's the big do you have, and it's looking at it from all the different perspectives. And again, this comes down to your unique blueprint when we come to Unpack Your Genius, because everybody's different. Some people, their journey is only about themselves. And it's only about becoming better within themselves. And then all the way on the other end of the scale are the people who are actually global and universal. So we all have such a different role. So this, again, is where you have to start to check yourself every time you start to think, oh, but everybody else says, or this is what I should be saying my mission is, because that sounds really grand and wonderful, Clients that I worked with in the past, when I was really focused on relationships and parenting, some of the biggest realizations for my clients in the past was when they realized that they didn't have to have this big grand goal of speaking on stages and being famous and writing books and all these incredible things, which is usually more the universal global goal. They simply needed to work through their own trauma and raise their children. That was it. That's their thing. And I used to say to them all the time, don't ever think that your role is less significant than somebody else's. And especially when it came to raising children, and I'd say to them, because you don't know who you're raising. So everybody has a role that is just as important as the next person's role, just because it isn't seen and admired and acknowledged in the way that some other people's journey is, doesn't make it less of an impact.
That's I'm not often speechless, but I feel like if I speak, I'm going to start stuttering because I've got so many thoughts going on in my mind.
You've got to know who you are and what you're here for. And once you know that, it gives people full permission to then just be it, to stop trying to be like society's telling you to be. And for some of us, it may be true. For some of us, we do need to be on stages, and we do need to be speaking, and we do need to be heard and expressed, because that is how some people will make an impact. But for others, It's the complete opposite. And then obviously you've got everybody in between as well, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's knowing that you're already making an impact, and yours is, it's like the butterfly effect, you know, knowing that a butterfly can flap its wings on one side of the world and create a tsunami on the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to understand the power of knowing that when you fully embody your own genius, that's all that needs to be done.
Do you think that, when people know that they were born to, make a real change and do something, I want to say significant, but fully honouring, something grand, let's say, but while fully respecting everything that you just said, that's not everyone's journey to do that. But do you think that the people who are really called to step up and do something significant, do you feel like they know, or do some people have that feeling of they were born to do something significant and they're thinking it's something grand, but it's not? Does that make sense?
Yes. There's a couple of things I want to speak to here. So we have free will choice and source will choice.
Yeah.
Is one part of that, right? Yeah. Where environment is a massive factor.
Yeah.
So there are people who could have been trying to follow their source will, right? So this is their purpose, this is what we're talking about, being drawn to this light, like the moth to the flame, right?
Yeah.
But the environment makes a massive difference, and the conditioning of that. I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she was talking about wanting to help children, creating a course to help kids talk at schools, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And to give you an example of this, I said to her, well, what if we didn't go to the schools? What if we did it differently?
Yeah. Because
what happens is, if you talk to this big group and they're in the environment of school, so think of worst case scenario, right? Bullying, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Let's say that the person speaking on the stage who's saying, we want you to be great, we want you to fulfill your potential, blah, 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 whatever it may be. We want to help you with this, right? And let's say that 10 kids in that audience feel that source will being activated. And they're going, oh my God, this is me. This is speaking to me. This is what I want to do. Like, this doesn't fit me, blah, blah, blah. I've had these problems. I want this solution.
Yeah.
But then the environment that they're in, because we have a choice of free will also, we can turn our back to source, is if the environment has actually been conditioned in this victim consciousness and this conditioning of this is what you should do, this is what you should believe, and the mass consciousness of, oh, what a crock.
Yeah.
Don't believe anything. That can't happen. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then what if, say, the other 100 kids in the room took free will and said, oh, what a load of rubbish, because of their conditioning.
Yeah. And
then the other 10 children were influenced by that environment, and so then also went for free will and said, oh, well, I'll just squash that. And it's easier not to be bullied, not to stand out, not to do something different, and not to go against the grain.
And so many courses, products, businesses, services are based on that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's where we fall down, is that depending on environment, and everything will tell you with human design, with the gene keys, with everything I've ever studied, it all comes back to relationships and how you were parented in your first 30 years.
30 years.
30 years, 0 to 30. So you think about now, if there's source will and free will, the people that are showing up, right, are the source will that have mostly been parented well in the first 30 years. They're the ones coming through. I was grateful enough to be parented well. So I've always been the bit of the troublemaker that was told, you can't say that, don't say that, because I'd just be like, no. I'd be the 1 in 10 children standing up going, come on, we all have to go for this when everybody wanted to walk the other way, right?
Yeah.
Because of that environment that I was in, where my parents, who as a child are your strongest supporters or not,
Or
but
not.
it matters what they say, right? So, and everyone who isn't just wants their love and admiration and to feel that connection from them, regardless. So imagine then for all the people that didn't have that from their parents. Imagine if you had it. Imagine if this source will in you throughout your entire life was fanned, and everybody else might be against you, your teachers, your siblings, well, not siblings, but your friends and students, but your parents are going, you've got this, we've got your back. So see the power that brings to the next people, and the permission that grants. So these are the people that I'm looking for, are the people who have allowed that source will to flourish and are willing to start to grab the people that have chosen the free will and start to give them permission that they're allowed to be themselves. And also to stop creating programs and courses and writing books about all the people that they're pulling out of the river, and instead come all the way back to where they're falling in, and to start to have prevention rather than cure. Imagine if we didn't have to heal trauma from childhood because we taught people how to parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
It's like, yes, there's always going to be, unfortunately, a reason for the cure methods. But what if we now start to focus more then on the preventative measures and allowing people to really start to bring out their source, and even for those people that are out there, because I talk to them all the time, that haven't had a great first 30 years, and they've created courses or books or doing their work because of that. It's like beautiful that you're the person here today that is helping all of those like you to heal with that. But how could it have been done differently? So that we weren't here. And this is where I'm really beginning to dislike when people say everything happens for a reason. Yeah, it does. But why do we need to suffer?
Jamal.
Why do we need to suffer? There's enough people suffering. So why can't we spend, I know from my own experience over the last 15 years, there are more people suffering than there are people that are fueled with love and joy on a daily basis. And it breaks my heart, because when I have lived a life where I've experienced mostly joy, had a lot of shit as well later in life, but I was bullied as a kid for being Little Miss Perfect because I was happy, for God's sake. Because so many kids weren't, and they were so jealous of that. But then I've reconnected with these same kids now, and they're asking me to heal them. They're asking how do I find that, right? So nobody wants to be a bully. Nobody wants to be narcissistic. Nobody wants to be fueled with all this trauma. But it's become so normal that people have created this narrative around everything happens for a reason, and when you get your lesson from it, you'll know why it happened. No, I'm sorry, but I don't agree that people need to be physically hurt, emotionally abused, in order for them to know the difference. And so why can't we learn from that and have the trauma? It's always going to be there, unfortunately. Have the importance of that, remove the shame of that and everything that comes with it. But let's do better. Let's shift the next generation by leading by example and saying, okay, well, if this is what happened to me, how can I change that at its core? Hence the core collective wound that we're here to heal.
Right?
How do I change it at its core?
Wow.
So that all of these people that I'm working with as an example for the courses is, and lots of people are doing similar work.
Yeah.
However, it's, yes, create the stuff now that helps them heal and move through that.
Yeah.
But we all know that once you've been through stuff, you're never the same, no matter how much shift,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what if we didn't have to have it in the future?
Yeah.
And so, it's the importance of creating the two pieces to that, the prevention and the cure.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I don't think... I've been in this game for a long time, and I've been to so many course creation, product creations by like our world leaders in the field, and I don't actually think that I've heard anyone say that. And that is such... maybe for me it feels like such a unique perspective and so frigging on point. And I really love what you say about the free will versus the source will, and how our surroundings and who we surround ourselves with and how we deliver this can either set them up to fall or fail, or really set them up to catapult into their source will. How can we navigate through that space, Emma, then, about delivering whatever it is, the course, the product, the keynote, the whatever? How can we go about making sure that we're delivering it in a way that is fully honoring their free will and their soul will? How do we navigate that?
I think it's about having an awareness of the free will, and everybody will choose their source will if they have permission.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Because it feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what people are missing within this industry is that they're not understanding what the free will is. So, so many people talk about mindset. So many people talk about, you've got to release that belief or that conditioning or whatever, which is fine. Everybody talks about the 5 people you surround yourself with. Everybody knows the cliches, right? We've all heard it. But go deeper than that, because it's all just going over people's heads, and they're like, yep, I know that, but you don't. To know and not to do is not to know. So you've got to be aware of your own free will choice. And this is where the journey becomes the most difficult. It's when we either believe that we're separate, we believe that we know more, we go on this healing spiritual journey, and then we believe that the people that either are our friends or family are no good for us anymore, right? It's, again, going deeper, that people are not their behaviour, for one. So learning to separate people from behaviour.
Definitely.
But then also knowing the difference between victim consciousness and people that are existing within their potential. It's the whole towards and away. So you've got your victim consciousness, people who are in your life that you probably love dearly and don't want to end relationships with. But this is where your own free will you have to become aware of, because it's like, okay, if I'm going to follow my source will and I'm going to go into this new world where I speak about all these amazing, incredible things that might be a bit over the heads of some people. A lot of business people will talk about woo-woo, and they'll apologise for it.
Yes, I hate that. That is a pet peeve for me.
Yes, and I'm like, it's not separate.
No.
You would just talk. For the love of God, give yourself permission to just talk.
Yeah.
Because a beautiful friend of mine, Sachin, a mentor of his told him that what we don't realise is that people that can't see you will never see you. And the people that can see you will always see you.
Oh, yeah.
So what are we doing?
Wow.
And whenever we're hiding from the people who will never see us,
Yes.
we're not allowing the people who can see us to actually see us, because we're not talking, we're not doing the Facebook posts, we're not doing Facebook lives, we're not having conversations about anything because we're too scared of what the people who will never see us will think. And when you have that appreciation, that just talk, because not everybody is for you, not everybody is meant for you to help. Step into the abundance mentality of there is no competition.
Yeah.
There's more than enough people for all of us.
Yeah.
And it's no different than a friendship circle. You're going to be drawn to the people that you're drawn to.
Yeah.
And there's nothing anybody can do about that. And if you try to compete, or you try to lower that vibration and go into, I don't really like them, or they're not very good, or I'm better.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying it, right? Just be who you are.
Yeah.
And allow the people to come. So the awareness of free will,
Yeah.
either as a teacher, a coach, a healer, a guide, allows you to understand that, get to know the person on a deeper level, because it matters. You know, I know when I was doing the healing work one-to-one with people, it mattered that we just did an incredible, amazing breakthrough. But it mattered that they went back to that job with those people that were saying those things and making them believe certain things about themselves. That mattered.
Yeah.
Because that's the free will, right? And it's having an awareness that you can heal yourself over here. That's your source will. That's what you're being drawn to.
Yeah.
But then if you then allow your free will to take you back to that environment and not be aware enough, or keep fanning that source will within you, you can still hang out with those people, because you're not better than them.
Yes.
You can still hang out with them, but now you have a choice. And it's this, like the saying that says, why do you always take the hard road? And the guy said, what makes you think I see two roads? So it's the same concept. When you have been in free will, all of this conditioning and environment, you don't know about your source will. You only see one road. People call it reality. Right? This is my reality. And when you tap into source will and you start to do the healing, you start to shift the limitations, you start to open yourself up and look around and go, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was. Suddenly you have two roads. But this space between the stories is knowing that you get to walk between the two. And you have the choice. You can always return to whichever one you need at any given moment, you know? And the more you get to know yourself and you get to have that courage and conviction, or you're connected to that mission that you have. Again, if you're back at that job, because right now you have to be there, but you've now found source will and you're finding, oh my God, there's all these opportunities for me. You may still have to go back to that job today and be surrounded by those people. But now you don't have to engage or enroll or show up in ways that you used to. Because you know it's temporary.
That's
you know,
right. And you've anchored into something greater. That is, I'm reading A Return to Love at the moment, and something that she talks about, Marianne, is you know, before, when she first started on the journey, she would get brought down to her knees, and you know, where she was a complete, you know, mess, and but then she'd get back up and she'd continue going until she realized that, what if I just stayed on my knees?
Yeah.
You know, and I really loved that. is because, and then from that place, you're not necessarily, jumping in and out. You can travel in this circle and have them cross-pollinate in a much more easeful way. I cannot tell you, the timing of this is just, I'm just like, I feel so emotional, because just yesterday my partner and I were talking about, friendships and, doing this work and being in this industry and in a very public way, talking about things that most people don't even look at. So there's that world where it's very normal to have, these beautiful conversations or talk about, eroticism in one sentence and then service in the next, and then, a collective wound in the next. Like, it's very normal for me.
Yeah.
But if you're hanging out with a group of friends who wouldn't even know or care what that is, sometimes I find that space really hard to navigate, and but yet there's people that, I've known, I went to high school with, that, we have a completely different life and a completely different existence, and there's not much time. We're not on the phone to each other all the time. However, we're so close and we are always there for one another. So I really love what you say then about, just being so connected to that mission that you can do everything. And it's something that that when I felt into you, when I was writing that, your bio, whatever it was called, I was feeling into you to share with you, to share, my audience with you, was that resistance and, that courage to show up. And you had this, your resilience and your persistency. That's what really kept coming up and bubbling underneath the surface. How do you navigate into, you mentioned that you homeschool your kids and you do all of this amazing work. How do you personally navigate all of the different circles, knowing that there is no separation? However, there's that, whether it's ego or whatever, that creates that push and pull. What is any work that you do when you feel that resistance come up within you?
There's a lot of things that I do. So I'm NLP trained and cognitive behavioral therapist, and all of that is in my background. Quantum healing, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I also do Kundalini yoga
Mm-hmm.
a couple of times a week, as much as I can.
Yeah.
And breath is incredibly powerful. So that's a big thing that I've really gone to now. But I do work a lot in archetypes around, when you talk about being with different people, it's again that awareness of we're always going to judge. We always judge. It's innate, right? Yeah. But it's taking the judgment away from that narrative we go into of, I don't like these conversations, or this relationship has moved since I've done different work within myself, that type of thing that a lot of people resonate with.
Yeah.
And instead what I look at is the archetype of it. And what I mean by that is what I'm getting from that relationship. So for example, a group of friends might be the people that you just talk absolute rubbish with and just laugh until you cry.
Yeah.
But that's, you were speaking before about the intention of medicine, of around that's their medicine. That's what they bring. That's the role that they play. Yeah, so again, it's going deeper into your own understanding that a lot of people don't actually know what they're here for. So what if you took it upon yourself to work out what they're here for from your perspective.
Yes, yeah.
And what it is you do enjoy about them,
Mm.
and what it is that they are there for. You know, are they the people that would have you back no matter what happened? They might not be as conscious as you,
Yeah.
but they'll be there, you know,
Yeah.
bringing over dinners or cuddled up with you on the bed while you cry or whatever it might be. They're the ones that are there for that, right?
Yeah.
So what's the richness, what's the wealth in that relationship that they bring? And so whenever you feel you need that,
Yeah.
you know who to connect with, you know,
Mm.
and know that everybody brings something different and that none of us are perfect. And what I say to people often too is they're probably thinking the same thing about you because you're different. And
Yeah.
now they feel judged or they feel that they're being viewed differently, you know? So sometimes even just that conversation of, I've changed, things have shifted, but what I do love about our relationship is this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really allows you to kind of move between. And so, with my world at the moment, you know, working from home, homeschooling, all that kind of stuff is, I do a lot of the quantum healing and the yoga and all of that, and the breath work and meditation is a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
But also, again, it is the oneness. It's just keeping it really simple in the fact of what are the 6 things that we need to accomplish today, and we write them down in order of importance.
Yeah.
Anything we don't finish moves to the next day, you know.
Yeah.
But again, it's about that oneness. It's like that was the biggest thing when we started homeschooling, and the boys were kind of saying, why are subjects separate? Because maths is in cooking and trigonometry is in the ramps at the skate park. You know, like, why do we? And so that's really been something that we've just organically created, where it's like, okay, I've got to do an interview or I've got to work with a client now.
Yeah.
So they'll all go do something else. And then it's like, give me an hour and then I'll take you out, or we'll go for a bike ride, or we'll go bake something, you know, whatever. It's just this, we really feel into and have that awareness of, 1, what needs to be done, and 2, what we feel like doing. And that's the beauty of homeschool, is that if it's raining, what are we going to do that's indoors? You know, if it's a beautiful day, what are we going to do that's outdoors? It's just this no attachment to anything, just allowing it to roll.
That is, yes, like, it's just that reminder that there is no separation, and to go with what you feel is best. How do you, you know, in this, a lot of coaches or healers, light workers, you know, however you want to label them, is, you know, small talk, you know, it can potentially, you know, it drives me crazy. And, you know, I think a lot of people in this space will be the exact same. How do you get through small talk?
Within yourself, you mean, or?
Within, let's go, well, I was thinking like more externally with other people, the conversations.
Okay.
But I do like the concept of within as well. So,
yeah, it's funny, you know, because I used to really struggle. Like, I used to be in a real position where I felt a real separateness. You know, I had my own spiritual ego, if you like, where I openly admit that I was like, oh my God, these people have no awareness of what they're thinking or believing, right? And then I guess, you know, this might trigger a few people, but then I just got over myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I realized that the wisdom that I have is a gift. And how can I turned it back on, rather than needing everybody to be different for me. I turned it back on myself and made it my own responsibility of, okay, well, how can I express myself to them in a way that isn't triggering, that isn't, and to know the difference, like to know when. One of the biggest rules I made was I only help people if they ask for it.
Yes.
And I stopped as best I could. And as I say, we always judge. Like I will still go into the, there's that, for whatever reason. But I just dismiss it now because I think, well, it's their path, it's their journey. Again, I look into what I can get. I am very careful about who I do and I don't associate with.
Yeah.
Being homeschooled as well, we've taken ourselves very far out of that. So it's a real conscious choice now. Like the boys and I literally sit here and say, who do we feel like connecting with today? Because we don't have to. We can avoid everybody if we want to. So we've taken a lot of that away from our life, in many ways, which I think is something that, again, isn't spoken about a lot in the school systems, is that kids are forced to be with people that we as adults, other than obviously in the workplace with people, we as adults wouldn't associate with.
Yeah, that's right.
If we didn't like them or if we were being treated in certain ways. And so we do have the luxury of that. But yeah, it's again, just, I don't enroll in it. I've been known for a long time, even back in my direct selling days. I remember when, I'd give them the thing of like, talk to X amount of people to get your appointments and so on.
Yeah.
And somebody would come to the next one and be or a new girl, and they'd be saying, I don't have any bookings, or I'm not making any money, or whatever. And then the others would say, oh, have you, how many classes have you done, or how many people have you spoken to? Oh, one. And they'd say, well, don't tell Emma that. Because straight off the bat, I'd say, well, how many people have you spoken to?
Yeah.
How much have you gotten yourself out there? Because you can't sit on your lounge and expect the world to come to you.
Yeah.
So until you're willing to do the work that's required for the impact that you want to have, don't talk to me about what's not working, because the only unhappy consultant, we used to call them, is a non-working one. So decide what it is you want to enroll in. Protect your energy enough in a way where you can see people for where they're at. You can also see yourself for where you're at, because oftentimes we put ourselves on pedestals that we're not on either. So it's bring yourself back to reality a bit at the same time, because we're all human. And love people where they're at, but also give yourself permission to say, well, again, I don't have to put myself in suffering. If that person is going to do things that, don't align. But, for the small part where you do have to deal with them. But I don't know, I've always liked to flip conversations around small talk. Like, if somebody said, if a woman walked in the room and somebody said, oh my God, look at her shoes. I would say, aren't they marvelous? So it's that pattern disrupt of like, oh wait, that's not what I was going to say. Because I'm not interested if you're going to sit here and judge somebody. Because to me, everybody's a person, and I don't get it.
I love that.
So, if you're aware of that, then shift the paradigm and flip it to a positive, do a pattern interrupt instead, so that they think a little bit more about what they're saying.
I do love a good pattern interrupt. It's probably, I use that a lot, and partly because I just really love to see the look on their faces. It makes me happy.
But it's all just insecurity, and at the same token, it tells you a lot about somebody and the seeds that you could be planting to help them also. Because if they're sitting there in their insecurity, judging everybody else, and in this small talk side of stuff, well, it tells you a lot about a person. Because if they changed every word to I am, they've just given you an incredible insight into what they believe of themselves. So sometimes it's a great way that you can start to plant seeds as well.
I love that. That is, I do have one last question before we wrap up, but I've just, like, you know, as you said, like my intention for our conversation was, you know, for it to be medicine for everybody. And I do feel like it's that, like it's just, I've thoroughly enjoyed every single second of this conversation with you today. But before we wrap up, I do want to ask you what's turning you on at the moment.
I would say connection, you know, that real connection to having people start to see that there's a different way, that when we just give ourselves permission to be ourselves,
Yeah.
and stop trying to be something that we're not. And changing the way that we look at relationships, and especially when it comes to business as well. Again, it's about taking away the separateness and knowing that everything's just a relationship, and everything is just about connection and deep connection to what really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I was, you know, who was Lisa Nichols. I was watching a podcast, a YouTube clip of hers last week, and you know, she was saying that on the opposite side of us helping anyone, it's always service, you know, and it is always that connection and relationship. So it's so true, and I think that that's why, you know, that's why I reached out to you to be a part of this show, is because, you know, we're in an era where everything is available to us. You know, we have so much privilege that, you know, that I think in many ways that we haven't had. You know, there's more abundance, there's more, you know, there's more of everything. But as you said earlier, people are unhappy. People are more depressed, you know, and yet there's so many people, you know, especially in this place, that, you know, are just pumping out a product after product or course after course. And that's what I love about what you offer, is because to be, you know, to offer your service and to be able to package it up in a way that's honoring to you and everybody else, it is a real art, and it's an art that you are doing so beautifully and so well. So I want to say thank you, because you have just dropped so many nuggets today, and I've so many times where I felt tears well up, you know, in my eyes, because there was just such deep resonance to everything that you say. And your work is so important to this world and so needed. And the more people that I think, you know, delve in and journey with you, you know, their journey will be so much more easeful. And yeah, much more, you know, that fusion between their free will and sovereign will. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the show and for doing what you do.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be here and to share. It's been wonderful to connect.
Yeah, it really has. It really has. I've thoroughly enjoyed this hour it's been magical. But thank you to everybody listening as well. And we'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Bye, everybody.
Bye.